I know I've made a number of videos about how over the last 2 years being on TikTok, I found it to be a fairly miserable experience, right? People misrepresent what you say, people take things out of context, people just straight up lie about you. Rage bait engagement is fantastic for people who want to make money on this platform, but the drama is just, it's exhausting. And it's not conducive to community, right? Like the things that trend in the algorithm, the videos that get you lots of views, are pretty detrimental to any efforts to make TikTok be a community. And I know for a lot of people, this is just like a business platform, right? And I've had a number of relationships form with folks on TikTok that later I was like, oh, I actually maybe myself had a bit of a parasocial relationship with these people. I didn't really know them. I knew them through their content, and because we would chat a little bit, we would DM each other. But then I realized like, oh, actually, I don't know them at all, and things come out, or they exhibit behaviors. They treat me in such a way, or treat other people in such a way where I was like, okay, I was assuming a lot, and I was falling into the trap of having, to some extent, a parasocial relationship. And I know we could talk about how like we don't ever really know anybody, and that happens with friendships IRL. Yeah. If any of you have ever had a platonic or a romantic relationship with a narcissist, you know that it takes a while to figure out what's happening. And so it's not exclusively something online. But I've gotten a little pushback from people who are like, TikTok and some of these online spaces are really, really important for disabled folks, especially, who rely on platforms like TikTok to find community. And I wish there was some way we could make that community a little bit more functional, a lot bit more functional. Of course, my solution would be we have to take profit out of the equation. What screws up so much of TikTok's efforts to be a community is the fact that it's a business, right? It's capitalism. It's the desire for creators to make money, and that way you don't see who they are as genuine people. You often see a persona that they put on, because their ultimate goal is not to connect with you, the viewer, or to connect with other creators. For a lot of people, their ultimate goal is to make money. And so we don't really know folks because there is that screen of money in the way. There is that motivator of money in the way. And also the platform itself, right? The platform itself is all about making billions and billions of dollars. At any time you put corporations ahead of community, anytime you put profit above people, it's going to be a toxic mess, right? But gosh, I have actually found that there are really awesome people on TikTok. I have formed some really good relationships with other creators. We call each other on the phone. We're in Discord chats together. We have Signal chats, and we lean on each other. We support each other. Those are spaces where you can just vent about the unique position of being a creator and what that's like and all of the challenges. But also you can just connect with other people. You can just form friendships. And that's been a real blessing to me. That's been something that has been really important to me, because my friends in real life, they don't actually have any concept of what it's like to be a social media creator, either the business side of it or the emotional, psychological side of it. So it's good to commiserate with people who have that shared experience. And have a point. It's actually like 2 points. They're going to tie in together nicely here. I know I love to bury the lead, and I know I'm nothing if not verbose. But speaking of the unique challenges of being a social media creator, one of the things that's really hard if you are covering anything political right now is reading through all of these news stories, watching all of the footage, especially for me, the footage of what ICE is doing, and then distilling what's happening into a coherent social media piece that you put out. So you have to read it. You have to read through several different sources describing the same awful thing that's happening, the same terrible thing the regime is doing. And then you have to process it and put it together and then communicate it to your audience. So you're just going over this story so many times, and it's really hard. And you're doing it, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day for several different stories. And if anybody else is like me, I research, read up on, and put together notes for far more stories than I actually get around to covering in any given day. There's an awful lot of stories that get left on the cutting room floor because I just don't have the time, or honestly, I just don't have the bandwidth to cover them. And one of the excellent humans that I have had the privilege of coming to know and developing a friendship with here on TikTok, who she challenges me and pushes me and is not afraid to be like, Angela, this is a bad take. Angela, you need to work on this. Can I gently encourage you to rethink your position here? Just what a true friend does, right? A true friend who's not afraid to criticize you, and they want you to be a better person, a better ally. That person is Priya, existing condition. By the way, she started a YouTube, so please go over there and subscribe. Go subscribe to her account. And if you don't follow her over here, she just has really thoughtful content. I learn a lot from her videos, not just about political things, but also an awful lot about film and media and TV. So she and I were chatting on the phone the other day, and one of the things we were talking about is this issue of like, it's really a slog right now. I think a lot of social media creators who cover political content are reaching burnout. I know for me, I only made 2 videos yesterday, and I had topics that I wanted to cover, and I was like, I just can't. I had a long conversation on the phone with one of my children that was, it was pretty mind-blowing. I'll talk about it more later today, but I didn't want to make any more political content. I didn't want to read the news anymore after we had that conversation. I didn't want to get bogged down in depressing news stories. I hit a wall and I was like, I can't process this. I need to think about what my kid said. I need to read up on the subjects we were talking about, and I desperately need a break from headline news stories. And Priya and I had a similar conversation where she was saying, it's really hard. It's really hard. It is emotionally taxing. It is hard on your heart to have to bear witness to what's happening and to have to try and explain it to your audience day in and day out. It's really, really difficult. And I know I said this months and months ago because I had a lot of people in my comments who were saying that they couldn't watch the news anymore, that they just had to step away. And how do you find that balance between bearing witness and needing to protect your own mental health, right? Where is that line? How do you find that balance? And my encouragement back then, and it still is my encouragement now, is to just wait 24 or 48 hours on a breaking story to see how it unfolds. Because these breaking headlines, breaking news, it is meant to really scare you. It's really difficult for your body to process all of that cortisol spike, that adrenaline dump that happens when you hear like breaking news and it's just something really bad and devastating. But it's just the very beginning of the story, and we don't know how it's going to play out yet. And so many of these folks who make a 1 minute, 2-second video that they can monetize on TikTok will not tell you much more than the headline, because 1, the news story is brand new and we don't know what's going to happen next. But 2, because they're not really journalists. They're not explaining the full context to you. They're just that little ticker at the bottom of the CNN or the C-SPAN screen, right? Just blasting the headline at you. I really encourage folks to wait 24 or 48 hours. For me as a social media creator, I often will wait to cover a story. I know that I will lose money by not covering it when it's breaking news. I know that I will lose money by not jumping on a story as soon as it's happening. Sometimes I do jump on a story because it's really important and I feel that there's enough context to cover it immediately, but often I will wait sometimes 2 or 3 days because we want to see how the story unfolds. So taking that breather, stepping back a little bit, not falling into the like breaking news. And then a lot of these big social media creators, they won't follow up with how the story develops. They won't follow up with context. All you hear is the over and over and over again, the like really daunting, terrible, bleak breaking news. And then you don't hear about the people who are moving to stop that terrible thing from happening. You don't hear about all of the good people who are organizing to stop it, to care for the people who are being targeted. One of the things I try and communicate to my audience a lot is that the regime makes a move, we make a counter move. They take a terrible action, we get to react, we get to strategize and plan, and we get to make our own moves. And with this breaking headline style of social media creation, you don't often hear about the counter moves. You don't often hear about what good people are doing all over this country to organize and resist. So for me, one of the ways that I protect myself is that I try to limit how much breaking news I cover. And sometimes I just peace out, like, no, nothing. Yeah, I'll lose money by not covering this story. But it would be very self-sabotaging of me for my own mental and physical and psychological health to decide that money is the most important thing. Too much of social media creation is driven by profit above all else. So I know sometimes people will get in my comments and be like, why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you covering this? Well, it's often because of what Priya says. It's really difficult. It's really wearing. It grinds you down to cover that stuff all the time. That's why I try and cover other subjects as well. But also I don't think it's good for my audience. I don't think it's doing right by my audience. I don't want to burn out. I don't want you to burn out. We have an awful lot of work to do. This is a long haul. This is a marathon. This is something that's going to take us years and years to get out of. And we can't be running ourselves into the ground less than 1 year in. So do what you need to do to pace yourself, to take breaks from the terrible headlines. Do what you need to do to protect your relationships, to protect your involvement in the resistance movement. And also go follow Priya on YouTube because she's awesome.